Okay. First you're gonna open up your part 1 GameMaker file. Okay. It has a sky, it has the sun, and it has the camera. Don't change anything, just run it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then you have something wrong. Alright, there we have our sun, and we have a flat floor, and that's it. That's all you need in part 1. Next, we're going to open up part 2. Okay. In part 2, we don't do much of anything, except we have a new object called track 0. My path can be set to whatever path you like. Currently it's set to path 1. Okay. These are the different models. One of these is the wall model, I forgot which one. Try playing around with it to find out. The other is the checkered floor model, which is different from the concrete floor model. Fatness is how wide the track is. Steepness is how steep the lower hill is. Text stretch 1 is how large the texture on the upper hill is stretched. Global wind is a variable that you don't actually use. This is how detailed the track is. These objects define where the hill starts. If I got rid of all these objects, there would be no hill. And that's pretty much all you need to know for part 2. Oh, and finally, let's run our game. I shouldn't say game though, it's not really a game. There, you can see our nice little trap. This is fun. Okay. Room. You can adjust the slope of a ramp by adding a multiplier to this piece of the code. It's located in the create event of track 0. Now here comes the fun part, adding physics and a car to your game. Before you get started, make sure you have an extension package, Extreme Physics 2.1, installed. I want you to notice there's some differences in the camera. Open up this step event and you'll find some significant differences. Also, the track has important differences as well. In the create event, you'll need to put this in. This is for the physics. Also, there's another important difference to the track. You'll notice I've added this array. I've added the normals. Also, this is very important. This defines the shape for the physics object. You need this or else the car will fly out of the map. Also, this is very important. Your car object. It has a lot of variables, as you can tell. Don't worry about it. Just worry about this script. Mostly these variables. Now, if you want to customize your car, you can change the acceleration, although I wouldn't change it too drastically, just maybe 0.4 or 0.5. Also, with greater acceleration comes greater responsibility, so you want to change your traction to maybe a little bit more. Notice that the less my traction, the better my traction. It's inverse of what you think. That's about it. Feel free to modify and Reverse engineer this to your heart's content. Let's give this baby a test drive. Are you ready? Woohoo! I can feel the acceleration of that car accelerating. As you can tell, the car's a little bit faster than before, and it's harder to control. There, that's about it.
Alright, so I'm back. This is making a 3D sprite in GameMaker and Blender, part 2. And now we're going to be learning about learning how to take this sprite, or this model, and render out the images that you're going to need for a game in GameMaker. So we're going to be rendering out two-dimensional images from this three-dimensional model for a top-down plane game. You know, you're flying around the sky. So it's going to be a top-down view. Now, the first thing you'll notice right now is that we're not in top-down view. So if I go back to my 3D view, you can see we need to be in this kind of view, so that we can have all the angles of the plane that we need. But right now our camera's over here. So the easiest way to get our camera into top view is hit 7 on your numpad, or go to top, right there. And then once you're in top view, you're gonna go to align view, align active camera to view, and voila, your camera is magically positioned in a top-down view. But we still need to move the camera because it's kind of off-center. So let's move it over and move it out a little bit. And that should be good. Now, we want a square sprite for our image because we're going to be rotating the plane. So it needs to work when the plane's like this and when the plane's like this, and blah blah blah. In fact, I actually need to make that the center so that it works. But we don't have a square camera. So the way to change that is to go over to your render settings and make this a nice square number, such as 200. And we also need to make the Y 200. And make sure this is set at 100%. And now you can see that our plane nicely fits inside the camera. And if we rotate the camera, you can see that the plane, not quite. So let's rotate the camera 90 degrees and move it over a little bit. Then rotate it back 90 degrees. There we go. Okay, so now it's in the center. And now we can begin rendering. But the first thing we need to do before we start rendering is, if we render it now, the image now, you can see we have a nice top-down view, but we still have this ugly gray background. And even if I switch to the alpha, well, shouldn't do that. But anyways, so we need to get something like this with the alpha transparency. But if we just save this, we're going to get the ugly gray background. The way to fix that is to go over here to shading in the render settings and set the alpha to pre-multiplied. Or actually, you want to set it to straight alpha, because that's the way GameMaker works. It works in straight alpha. And if you render it again, voila, we now have a black background, and it looks very chunky. But if you go to your alpha tab, you can see that it's actually not chunky. That's just how Blender's displaying it. So now we need, that's out. Okay. So now we need to save this out. So let's go save as image and save it as plane. Oh, you can see I already have some saved. So let's save this as plane 0. Come on. Okay, what's taking so long? Okay, and now, so we have that saved as plane 0. Now we need to rotate the plane 45 degrees. But if we just rotate the camera 45 degrees, or yeah, 45 degrees, you can see that the light's rotating with it, which is not what we want, because then as the plane goes around on the screen, it'll seem like the light source is going around with the plane, and your sun is going around your game world, which is not what you want. So instead of rotating the camera, let's rotate the plane. So if we press R and try to rotate the plane, you'll see that my plane actually rotates with the rest of my body. That's because I've parented all the wings and the tails pieces to the main fuselage. And the way you do this is you select the wing, then the fuselage, or actually no, you select the wing, the tail, the fin, and then you select the fuselage and you hit Control P. Set object to parent, and you should be good. And now it rotates. Okay, so now let's rotate this 45, negative 45, and let's render another picture. There we go. Save it out. Plane 45. Now it's going to take a long time. Okay, there we go. And another 45 degrees, negative 45 degrees, and save this one as plane 90. Okay, so you can keep going with this, keep rendering out your images all the way around the circle. And then in the next part, I'm going to show you how to import those into GameMaker and use them in your game. Alright, so here I have a new game that I've created, and I've already got a room and an object plane, and a sprite set up with the object has all the right code for a plane, because I'm assuming you know how to do that. That's not in the scope of this tutorial. So to import our sprite in GameMaker, we're going to go open Sprite 0, or create it if it hasn't been created. Go to Load Sprite, and then navigate to your folder and select all of your images from the bottom to the top. So from the last one to the first one, which would be plane 0. And then open them, and you should see that our images have been imported. So if you want, you can put your, you don't have to put your origin at the center, but I like to. And then so you can see the trick that allows this plane to turn like this when I play the game. So you can see how it turns and goes the direction that it's facing, is that I have the image index rounded to the direction of the plane. So whenever it's closest, the direction that the plane is going is closest to 45 degrees, or is closest to 90. That's the image that's going to show. And as long as your plane sprites are in order from 0 to 360 or 0 to 315, this trick will work. You just divide by the difference. You divide the direction you're going by the difference in the angle of the images. So for example, my images are 45 degrees apart because that's what we did in Blender. And then you round it so that it actually is the closest image and not the one that's below. Because if you do just a floor, which is what image index natively does, it looks really bad. So that's really all there is. I hope you learned a lot, especially about Blender, and if you're a Blender geek, then maybe a little bit about GameMaker. So have a good day, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.